Welcome to the Your Life, Your Brand podcast with myself, James Oliver. Please hit the follow or subscribe button. It would mean the absolute world to me. On this episode, I am joined by Kassandra Gordon. Kassandra is a London-based award-winning jeweller and creative director who, through a journey of self-discovery, found inspiration to channel the experience, texture, and voice of herself and her community into her craft. So let's dive right in. Hey Kassandra, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So without further ado, tell me how it all started. I have the vision of you arriving in Hatton Garden and being drawn towards the gemstones, the jewellery, the lights.
I think if I did a movie or something, that's what it would look like. But in real life, it didn't work out that way, the glitz and glamour. In real life, what happened was I did an evening course in Kensington and Chelsea College, just a random course about how to make a silver ring. Paid for it myself. I was like, oh, this is nice. I was like, I'm hooked. I made a silver ring with amber, and I thought, this is amazing. It looks horrible, but I thought, this is what I want to do. Jewelry is nice. I like making it. I could sell it, I think, or I thought, and that's what I was going to do. So that's how it started about like 10 odd years ago.
So as the young creative, you were there in Hatton Garden. How was it you started promoting your jewelry?
A lot of hustling. So what I did, I don't have no jewelry experience. I don't have no marketing experience at that time. So I used to take my jewelry. I used to go online and like, okay, when I'm going this weekend, I'm going to Bristol, Leicester, different parts of London. Have my little jewelry in a little case. Go to like an art gallery shop. I'm like, hey, excuse me, can I speak to the manager, please? Or the buyer? Here's my jewelry. Do you want it in your shop? I'm like, go away or give me the email and I'll follow up. So that's how I started. So, but the thing is, when I started, people didn't know me as much. You start out doing consignment or sell and return. So all the investments on you. So I'm putting all my money in, making jewelry to look good in their store. Well, sometimes get tarnished and I don't care about it. But that's how I started. And then sometimes I did markets as well. And then I was like, oh, like markets are hard because I don't know, like the market or street food culture, people go there for the food, have a little chat, and then on the impulse, on the whim, someone might buy some jewelry. But the jewelry has to match the prices of the food what you're buying. So if you're buying like a £10 burger and a beer that's like 15 quid, like no one wants to buy anything, a jewelry more than 15, 20 pounds, even though it's handmade, I made it. And sometimes the jewelry in these markets are imported from China or whatever, and they don't make it because how can you? So I just realized like people look at my stuff like, oh, it's too expensive for a market. And I was like, I can't do it. It's handmade, you know? And then I just got to the drawing board and was like, I'm going to try online. I'm going to try to do bespoke. And then it just like out of reputation and word of mouth, that's how it got out. So, it's, you know, I don't use any Facebook ads or anything. So it's been really word of mouth and social media.
So with regards to social media, word of mouth, etc., it's very much about building a brand, whether that be personal or business. And was that something consciously you did?
I was doing personal branding for my business. It's weird, please, and you are the expert, right? I was doing personal branding without knowing, thinking it was company branding. So I was just being me, Kassandra, while selling my jewelry, not thinking that it is a proper company and thinking what a company business brand should be. So because people liked me and I had gusto and moxie, I was like, listen, this is my jewelry, it's good, right? And obviously it's not, you know, it's not, people liked me and then they bought it. And I was trustworthy and I built relationships. About 2 years ago, I realized I can't just do me. I've got to take the business KLG Jewelry or Kassandra Gordon Jewelry different. So that's Kassandra Gordon Jewelry, which is what the company is, the brand, attracting a certain type of customer, progressive, trendsetters, that kind of thing. And then there's me, Kassandra, who do podcasts, who's the artist, who's a social commentator, who is a podcaster. I got my personal brand hat, the invisible hat is on today. And I found that the hard way because on my Instagram, especially when the world was changing around lockdown and I was talking about social issues on my Instagram, my following increased, which was nice, but it was on my business page. So I increased my impact and influence in the jewelry and fashion world because of my values and the way how I present myself online. I'm very passionate about what, do you understand? So I'm passionate of what I believe in, and I would say it, and people gravitate towards it. And I was like, no. I got to stop talking about these social things on my personal, on my business page, and then find another outlet to do it. So that's why how podcasting came through. Talking about the things I want to talk about in long form content, but away from my jewelry brand.
I suppose it's really interesting for me to hear that you were kind of working on your personal brand without even knowing about it, let's say. I guess that's coming back to where people hate being sold to but love shopping with friends. And you created a reputation for yourself, both online, social media, word of mouth, and then kind of became a fan favourite or a favourite in the industry, shall we say.
So, like when people say, with a comedian saying, they say that's the comedian's comedian, or that's the singer's favourite singer. So I'm like the jeweler's favorite jeweler, kind of. Does that make sense? So it's nice having all these jewelers who are my peers, who support me, people in the industry, and they like what I do and love what I do, and they're very excited what I do and have this influence, but they're not buying my jewelry. So I have to navigate, when do I use my influence in that jewelry space, in the jewelry trade worldwide, and when do I use my brand voice, my business brand voice, and I'm working on that. So everything has been a rebirth. So I'm in like the Phoenix stage for my business brand at the moment.
Amazing. So alongside your business brand, your podcast as well, I know we spoke before and you mentioned you started a comedy club, completely off piece to everything else you're doing nonetheless. So tell me about that.
So I opened the first world morning comedy club where people at 6-7 o'clock in the morning came to listen to stand-up comedy before they went to work. So they laughed the way to work. They started the day with a smile and a laugh and well-being. And it was really, really good.
So with comedy in the morning, jewelry by day, podcast by night, shall we say, how is it you prioritize your time to get all of this done? I know my time as a business owner is kind of pulled from pillar to post, and it's sometimes really frustrating. How do you manage that on a day-to-day basis?
That's a good question. So I can't remember the people, you probably know, the time. So that what is important and what is urgent. So if it's something very time bound, if it's urgent and important, I'll do that quickly. That is my key. And I have a list. I'm like, these are the things which I've got to do today. And then if not, it goes on to the next day. It just gets shifted to the next day or the next day. Or if I have to delegate, I have to delegate. So that's how I use my time.
Absolutely, no doubt. Sounds like a great way of managing your time. I suppose for me, social media is very high up my to-do list on a day-to-day basis, building personal brand, etc. And business brand as well, not just my personal brand. How are you building your brand on social media?
Right. So as I said, I'm going through a rebirth. I'm in the Phoenix stage. So what I'm doing, I post not as regularly. I know people are like, oh, you got to post regularly. Not now. I'm very intentional now. So before I used to just post because you got to do it every day. You got to do it because if you don't, someone will miss out and you got to sell. And it's not. I'm very intentional now. So I don't post as often. And what I'm doing in the background when I'm rebranding, can I just say this? As a jeweler, right, and who works in fine jewelry, most jewelers go to the same place to get the gold and their gemstones. So competitive wise or USP wise, there's not much difference between a lot of fine jewelry brands, right? It's the way how you market. Some people have competitive advantage, but they've been around longer, they've got heritage, they've got legacy, they've got a name. Some people just got billions of pounds of ads behind them. But for me, who's the unconventional jeweler and who's someone who's not really fits the aesthetic of a jeweler, especially in the UK or even abroad, I've got to find something unique about me. So one is my storytelling. So I'm in the background thinking about my storytelling for the brand and what each piece of jewelry, what it is. So I'm putting these stories. But what's most important is about my visuals. I cannot just put a piece of jewelry online on social media. I thought I could do that, and people would be so forgiving. I thought, people just try your best and just do what you. No, no, no. That is curated authenticity. That is lies. The lies, the lies, the lies, lies. Right? You have to pretend, not pretend, but for me, you have to put your best self out there and be aspirational and show the vision of what you want the brand to be, even where if you think you're not there yet. So I'm taking my visuals very, very seriously. So I'm just putting like make my visual pop and just work on that, and it'll be okay. And make sure I'm attracting, and I'm reevaluating my customer avatar, my customer profile, like who I think I'm selling to make sure it matches and make sure I'm using the copy and the language that they would be attracted to, and design jewelry things what they would be attracted to. And I've trying to like have content which is what's that thing? It's just I can't remember the phrase, but it's like have lightness to. So I don't want to get into copyright, but what I mean is like, I don't know, say that you're a luxury brand and you're doing like luxury sunglasses and you take a picture next to a Porsche. That's a very like crass way of putting it. I'm trying to have things and content where it's like to a certain other kind of brand or aesthetics. People, oh yeah, okay, so Kassandra's in this, or KLG jewelry is in this bracket. It's positioned in a certain way. Yeah.
Amazing. I guess I'm really curious to know, how does your personal brand fit in this, alongside with your podcasting, your jewelry? You're obviously a creative and very outspoken. So what do you do?
I just do what I want. So that's easy. That's it. So as I'm consistent and I say the same similar stories and I try to say things. So what I'm very keen on is like over the last 2 years is not really. So what I've learned with my personal brand, you can't wait for the media or journalists to tell it for you. You got to do it yourself. And I say this really strongly. So over the last 2 years, because of what happened in the world, a lot of journalists and people just see me as a black jeweler, and they love to use black. And I know I'm black because I live every day as a black woman. You don't have to tell me that I'm black 10 times, right? So I get annoyed. I don't want you to always position me as a black jeweler. It's like a KFC bucket. Like, have you heard of these 10 black jewelers you never heard before? No, like we're not KFC. We're like a normal people who make jewelry. You wouldn't say like 10 English jewelers, 10 white jewelers. You wouldn't do that. Right. So I'm very like, I don't take no interviews anymore talking about diversity. I don't do that anymore. I don't talk about it I try not to talk about it unless it's really relevant, because these journalists over the last 2 years have kind of put it in the internet footprints that I'm some black activist doing stuff, where I'm just a jeweler who just likes to say certain things like anyone else, who has values like anyone else, and she makes dope jewelry, and they never mention that I make dope jewelry, or they never mention that I win awards, and they never mention where I'm stocked. But they just all they do is just look at me, I'm black, and it's really annoying. So that's why I'm really going on the personal brand, and like, you know what, there's more to me than just my skin color. I actually do stuff. I'm actually a human being. So yeah, that's why it's so important for me to tell my own story.
I guess it's about the opportunity to be authentic to you.
Absolutely, because it can get so whitewashed. I tell you, it, you know, the way how they write about me is so whitewashed, and I think I'm not the acceptable person for them, because if I don't like it, I say it. Like, I'm respectful and I'm polite, but sometimes in British culture, being seen as direct or like, you know, I don't like this, is it okay not to do that? Sometimes people don't like it. So it is what it is. I'm born in an American body. Sometimes I feel like I'm born in America, but you could just say certain things and people just stand by you and they support the underdog. I don't think sometimes in the UK, people always like to support the underdog. They don't have that American. I think I fit more of the American dream.
I guess that brings us back to the Hatton Garden dream, or the American dream, whichever way you want to put it. That's probably the movie back there.
Yeah, I was in like my little £200, like, please sir, can I have some more? I have holes now. And then like 10, 20 years later, she's adorned in Gucci or something. Yeah, that is the movie, what people are gonna get. Definitely.
So, if you went back to Hatton Garden right now, day one, what advice would you give a younger version of yourself starting out in the industry?
When I started doing Hatton Garden, it's just like, thank you for that. I'm going to be concise. Don't let no one try to intimidate you. Don't let no one, you know your work. Don't no one try to intimidate you. Just keep on going. Seriously, seriously. You know, there's so much barriers. And I want to say this on a positive note. Nothing wrong with the people. There's lovely people in Hatton Garden, the jewelry quarter. I've made really good friends, lovely. But starting out was tricky. And because of my personality, and I thought, oh, Kassandra is serious about her jewelry life and being tenacious, they let me in. So I don't want to have any negative things talking about Hatton Garden at all. But when they used to mess up my work, my jewelry, or when they used to accuse me of stealing a little crappy stone, and I'm just like, why are you doing this? I will, those things put me off. I cried. Like, what are you being horrible for? But it's the way how it is. You got to pay your dues. You just got to deal with it. Like you choose your hard, isn't it? You choose your hard, and you just have to just ride with it.
100%. So, final question. If the listeners want to find out more about you, where can they find you online for your brand and you personally?
If you want to find with my jewelry and what I do, it's www.klgjewelry.com, the British spelling. Instagram, KLG Jewelry, Twitter, KLG Jewelry. The Black Creative Handbook is where I talk about just being myself, talking about creativity and the creative processes and about how to get from A to B and still get money by being a creative. It's a Black Creative Handbook.